Okay. So the brother's asking, what if you actually do build a legacy, and then after you build like a legacy, you become a leader, then you start liking being a leader, and you always want that, like like the limelight's on you, and everybody's looking, and you're like, yeah, I'm the leader and stuff like that. And yet, in the beginning, you might have started it with the intention to do it for the sake of Allah, and then later on, Shaitan can play games with you, and that's definitely Shaitan can do that. In fact, the people that work for the sake of Allah, Shaitan tried to make them do sins, and they said, no, we're not going to drink alcohol, no, we're not going to commit zina, and so on. And so Shaitan says, okay, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to do dawah. So then the person goes and do dawah. So after they start doing good deeds, Shaitan then comes to them afterwards and says, you're pretty good. You should be proud of yourself. And like, look, so and so praised you. You should be happy. You know what I mean? So it starts playing that game. Now, there's two sides to this. The Prophet said, if you do something sincerely for the sake of Allah, people might recognize this and start saying nice things to you. I've had this experience where, you know what, I would say something nice. When I was younger, I said something nice to a speaker. And I said, you know what, I really love your lecture, and I agree with what you say and stuff like that. You're awesome, you're the best. And this speaker basically like shoved me off like I was some sort of filth that was trying to mess up his intentions. So he was like, ugh. And he cold shouldered me. And I was so sad, and like today I actually speak at events with this guy now. Right? I was a little kid before, now I'm a speaker alongside this, and I still don't forget that he did that to me. And from that moment, I said that if anybody says something nice to me, I will acknowledge that and be happy about it. Because that's not the right way to just pretend like you're some religious person that hates people speaking nicely. Like, what do you want them to curse you and shut you down every time, and then you're religious, right? So, good or bad, if someone says something bad, then inshallah ta'ala be patient and try to extract some truth from what they're saying, and possibly you can benefit from it. If someone says something good to you, be thankful to Allah that what you're doing is affecting someone. So if, for example, if I do a lecture, like let's suppose before the lecture I committed a sin, and then I'd say, oh Allah, because of this sin, my repentance is giving an awesome lecture. Like an outstanding lecture, way better than what, like, it might be like some dinky little community, something like that, and they were never expecting a lecture of this caliber. And I would do that, oh Allah, if I do this, then forgive me for that sin. So I do that lecture. And then how would I know if it was an awesome, amazing lecture? I'd go around and ask the people, what did you think of the lecture? They're like, that was the most amazing, rock, awesome, like, blockbuster lecture that I've ever heard in my life. And when I hear that, it makes me happy. Why? Because hopefully, inshallah ta'ala, I did what I was supposed to do. It's more like turning to Allah and say, oh Allah, are you pleased with me? Because, I've been able to, by your tawfiq, of course, I put in this extra effort. Okay? So it's looking, when you do your actions, you do it to your best, almost to a show-off level. But who are you showing off to? And you're showing off to no one except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you're a leader at the highest quality level, and people can praise you or not praise you, it makes no difference. And they probably will praise you if you're really doing your job good. That's just the way it is. If Allah is pleased with someone, He tells Jibreel, I'm pleased with so-and-so. Jibreel is pleased with them. Jibreel tells the angels, all the angels in the heavens are pleased with this person. And then Allah puts pleasure in the hearts of the people towards this person. Okay, so that means that you're going to get praise. And you're going to get happiness and love. But it wasn't because you're doing your actions sincerely. Inshallah ta'ala, it's a good sign that the actions were done sincerely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alright, let us move on. The next section is kind of like a bonus section on decisions, and this technique on how to make major decisions, or how to make decisions, it's for major decisions. You can also apply it for like smaller decisions if they're really getting to you and stuff like that, but these are like major decisions. A time when I've used this was when we were going to do Al-Maghrib Institute in the UK about 4 years ago from this time. And I canceled it at the last minute, meaning posters were made, it was scheduled, and everything was there, and people were all prepared, and I canceled it at the last minute. Now when you cancel something that big, a whole expansion to another country, you just don't send off an email and say, I don't feel like going anymore, right? So my backup, I wrote all of this into like a full document, and it was so detailed in every angle. When you do this, it is like, it's major. Like there's no possible, even when I do this technique and then someone tries giving me feedback, I would be like, there's no possible way that you've thought of this issue in more detail than what I've done. Like, I've gone through it so deeply from every result and analyzed every angle that your just casual statement has nothing to do with what I'm talking about here. Okay? So I'll show you how to implement it, inshallah ta'ala. Some of the decisions that you're gonna be making are too large for you to just think on the top of your head. Kind of like back to the sister when she was writing out her whole day and seeing it on paper. That was just her simple like agenda book. When it comes to big decisions, such as, should I get married before university or during or after university, or should I marry someone from my home country or someone that I love versus trying to please my parents, those are huge things that have so many ramifications. Probably like for the rest of your life it's going to have ramifications, consequences or rewards. Or another example of that would be like, should you buy a PC or should you buy a Mac? Right? These are major decisions. Based on this, I have come to the conclusion that I will not buy a Mac. It showed up in my office one day, but I stick to PC. And it's from this. And someone will say, no, but Mac has a lot of great marketing techniques. Look, they've, gotten me into it. All right? So it's not based on the marketing, but it's based on, and I'll give you, once you go through this, then you start seeing that the most important result that you're looking for example, Mac PC, I'm sure a lot of you have thought about it, is compatibility. For me, the number one thing, so someone will say, Macs are great on graphic design. I'm like, I don't even do graphic design. Right? Oh, but it works really fast. I could care less if it works really fast on graphic design. Really, it makes no difference because I don't do graphic design. I don't do video. So it doesn't mean anything to me. Someone else will be like, yeah, it's really good on graphic design. Does it work as a calculator too? Because that's usually what people use their computers for, as a calculator, right? Or a typewriter. They just type up a document and print it. Okay? Or they check the internet. That's all they use their computer for. They call it a glorified typewriter. Okay, IT people may be a little different, but I'm just telling you, a regular person just checking their email and then they're done. Anyhow, so I learned that from this. So inshallah ta'ala, we're going to go through it. I'm going to show you the different steps to it. Maybe as I'm explaining it, start writing it down with your own decisions that you need to make. In the beginning here, let's pick like a simple decision so you understand how to use this structure. So step number one is you pray istikhara and then decide your options. Pray istikhara, then decide your options. So istikhara, ideally you're praying 2 rak'ahs, and then you make dua, and the dua, you can memorize it, it's online, you can find it, istikhara dua. Oh Allah, if this thing is good for me, then, make it easier for me and give me barakah and blessing in that. If it's not good for me, then keep it away from me and keep that away from, keep me away from it and it away from me, and bless me with something better, wherever that may be, and allow me to have that. So that's like the istikhara dua. I've been in situations, and you might be in situations where you don't have the ability to pray 2 rak'ahs. You might be at a store, you need to make like a quick decision. Sometimes I would just turn and do istikhara right then and there. I'm going to give you this example. Whenever my wife doesn't ask for very much, and I'm giving like an example from my wife, and I always get in trouble for that, but anyways, it's like a really good lesson here. So my wife wanted this this leather, what are those things called? Ottoman. A leather ottoman. She doesn't ask for much. She said, I want this leather ottoman. When you open it up, it has some storage space inside. Have you guys seen something like that? Okay? It looks really nice. You open it up in storage space. And I'm like, you know what? I will buy it for you because you don't ask for anything anyway. I'll buy it for you. No questions asked. So we went to the store. And then I made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it came out negative. And now I got a dilemma here. And what I mean by negative, this is what I do. After I like make this prayer, I'll put up 2 my mind, yes or no, and wherever my mind is focusing more on, I'm like yes, no, and I just let my mind wander to whichever direction it feels more comfortable, right? So if my mind starts wandering like yes, it's like sometimes you feel the emotion very strong, yes, go for it, or sometimes you feel the emotion very strong, no, don't go for it, and sometimes it's kind of like weaker, but be like yes, no, what comes to mind, no, but this one it was kind of strong, no. And then I said to my wife, I said, I know you want this, and I know it's what you've been looking for, and sounds good and stuff like that, but this istikhara came out no. And I trust my istikharas and I go with them. I don't think we should get it. And then kind of like this mini fight broke out. And then you're like, no, your istikhara's always against me, so like that. And I'm like, and then when I took, okay, so no, I go look at the ottoman, it's too long, it was longer than expected. It's kind of like weird long. And the storage space was like you could put like 2 books and then you're out of storage space. And then I said, you know what? There's just no purpose to it. If you want a storage, get a bucket, or if you want an ottoman, get like a proper ottoman. But this isn't gonna work. And so alhamdulillah, like it worked out. The reason I'm saying this is start with your istikhara, right? So simple decisions you can get done, and then after that you can do it. I'll take questions after, inshallah. So istikhara. You've done istikhara, then you're deciding your options. What are your options in this case? And you can, by the way, you can do this, and then at the end, after you know like what your options are, you might say, okay, now let me pray istikhara for each one, each option, for example. You want at least 3 options. If they say that if you have only one option, then that's not an option by definition. That's like you're in a rut. As in Rutgers or something like that, right? You're in a rut. That's not, you don't have any options. If you have 2 options, then it's not options either, you're in a dilemma, this or that. Once you hit the 3rd, now you've got some options. Okay, so you want at least 3. So someone says, should I marry so and so? That's the only thing that, you know, I'm gonna marry so and so. Okay, that's not a decision. If you're only gonna marry them, just marry them, right? But they're like, should I marry them or not? That's a dilemma. What's a 3rd option? Should I marry this person, or should I marry this other person, or should I wait to see if someone better comes along, or 3, or should I stay single for the rest of my life? And single has benefits too. Okay, so now you got 3 options. And the example that I'm giving here is, should a person study at university or get married? So one person will say get married, and rewards or consequences of that, maybe they have a child and they can't continue. Should they go to university? Yeah, they can go to university, but after university they'll be over the hill and they'll never get married after that. Or, what's a 3rd option? What would be a 3rd option? I know you guys are looking at the paper, but what's the 3rd option? Get married while you're in university. Okay, now you got some options there, right? Now you got all 3 of them. So you start to see, the more options you put in, the more flexibility that you have, right? So put down something simple just so you can get an idea. A decision that you're trying to make. All right, so you got 3 options. So one would be, should you do this? Should you not do it? And the 3rd one, somehow kind of like mixing something or maybe something completely different. So you've got 3 options. Now, what are you trying to achieve? This is kind of like when we're doing the RPM, you're looking at what's your result? What are you actually trying to achieve? So in the example of a person trying to get married, what are they actually trying to achieve? They're trying to get a degree. That's something that they're looking for. They're trying to get married at a young age. Is something that they're looking for as well. What results would they be looking for? They might be saying, for example, they don't want to commit zina, or they don't want to always feel sad that everybody else has a boyfriend or a girlfriend and they have to like walk with other people of the same gender everywhere. People think weird things about them and stuff like that. Okay, so that's what they're trying to achieve. So you write down some things that you're trying to, the results that you're actually after in this decision, related to this decision. As I said, it gets complex. You can't think about this in your mind. You got to write it down. After you do that, you also want to write down some results that you're trying to avoid. Not as important, but you also want, what are you trying to avoid? You're trying to avoid, for example, getting too old and not being married yet. You're trying to avoid, for example, in the issue of marriage, the criticisms of the aunties or the uncles in your community. You're trying to avoid, for example, feeling lonely or living alone, as examples. So write down a couple of things that you're trying to, results you're looking for, and results that you're trying to stay away from. Okay, next step. So you've got at least two things that you're trying to, results that you're after, or two things that you're trying to avoid. Okay, so you got the idea. This is just an example stage, right? So just so you know how to do it, and then you can spend as long as you want after this. As I said, some of these things that I'm teaching you, I didn't spend 10 minutes on it. I might have spent like an entire day analyzing it. If I'm making a decision using this technique, at least 2 hours or more dedicated to filling this out. And doing it properly, following each step exactly as it says, because there's no step in there that's just like superfluous. It's there for a reason. Step number 2 is where you take your results that you're after and you rank them according to, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important this is to you. And I would, try to put, sometimes a person will do something like this. They're all important to me, 10, 10, 10. But that doesn't really give you kind of options and analyzation. If you only had, like let's suppose you have 5 options and you had to rank them in order of importance. Which one would be on top, which would be the second? Those are for people that give 10s to everything. If you don't give 10s to everything, then don't worry about that. This one would be a 9, this one would be a 7, that one would be a 10. Rank it according to how important the result is to you. So you're prioritizing your results. And you're basically kind of like rewriting it. For now, just like write the numbers, so you're re-ranking it, but ideally you want to rewrite it again. Or if you have it on a computer, it's easy, just rearrange the list so that it's in order of what's most important. What results are most important. So in the example that you have there, for example, this one is like complete a bachelor's. That might be importance is 8 out of 10. And get married young is very important to this woman, so she might say, 10 out of 10. So she would reorder it and prioritize. So getting married young is the most important thing for her. Second most important at an 8 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10 is completing her bachelor's degree. Third most important, and so on, and it's ranked now in a new order. As you can see, once you change the order, your emotions change with the ranking order. What I was saying is that to rearrange it according to prioritizing it. So if you ranked one is like a 10, one is an 8, one is a 6, then rearrange it. Because if you're writing it on a piece of paper, the first one that you wrote isn't necessarily your most important. And then so you want to rewrite it so the most important is at the top so you can see graphically what's your most important things. When I was doing my visioning and my dream goals and all of this stuff, kind of like what you're doing in the Spectacular 7, one of my goals was to, as everybody has, like a big mansion by the ocean. Okay? That's usually what people, even when I was younger, there was a poster that said motivation for higher education. Anybody seen that poster? It had a six-door garage, 6-car garage with like Lamborghinis and all of that stuff, and a big house, ocean in the back. And I'm like, whatever, okay. That was my goal. And then my family is like a little different. So what I said to my wife is, and this is like step number 2, I said to her, if you can't get anything, what's the number one most important aspect of the house that we get, or the home that we live in? And, for her, it's like living near, say, parents. And then for me, the number one most important, what do you think the number one most important thing is for me in the house? Automation. It has to have an automatic garage door opener. It's because living here in Canada, the most important thing, above all else, actually, I have 2 most important things. One of them is it needs to be near a masjid. Because that's such a critical choice. If you live far away from a masjid, you're going to just by that decision, like half your time you won't be praying in the masjid. So it's got to be near a masjid. But the second thing was, it's got to have an indoor garage. that's for sure. Because it's so cold here, I'm like, it's got to be indoors and so on. And subhanAllah, I did like this visioning of, I have like a photo album on Yahoo, or Picasso or something like that, right? It was on Yahoo. That has pictures of dream homes that I want, and I keep looking at it, and but when my wife decided this thing, and she wanted to live in an apartment, I travel a lot and stuff like that, and I basically said, I'm going to give up my dream so that she can be comfortable. because I can go do other stuff and whatnot and so on. And subhanallah, that Hasnain was with me as we went to this place. I went and I was gonna rent a place, and it's kind of like dingy and stuff like that. And it wasn't. But I said, hey, you know what? I'm giving up on my dream. Might as well. And then Hasnain says, we know this other place, and we went to this other. It's like a condo location, and at this condo place, the brother that was showing, so they wouldn't even let us in because it's not a rental place. You actually have to find the owners of the apartments and contact them in order to get a place. So some Muslim guy lived there, and he showed us around, and he's like, and this is the gym. There's a gym downstairs. And as soon as I saw that gym, subhanAllah, it was an Iman rush moment for me. I said I had given up for the sake of my family so that they would be comfortable, but yet everything that was on my album, like the picture that I have of what my gym would look like in my dream home, this was the gym. This was it. Only that I didn't understand how it would work out. Well, if it's not my house, how am I going to get a gym like that? But yet in a condo, they had a gym that was exactly like the picture. And I wanted indoor garage and all the space, stuff like that. I got that. You wanted a sauna and a pool. The condos got that. It had everything that was in my dream, and I had kind of stepped back for the sake of Allah. And alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave it to me. Everybody's happy. So you're ranking your results. All of that I was explaining on how you need to focus. You can't always get contradictory things, so you need to focus on what's most important to you, and if all else fails, you gotta aim for what's most important to you. And that's why I said with the Mac and PC, the most important thing for me was compatibility. Because it was so high, I just couldn't buy a Mac. I'm sorry, all Mac users. You got compatibility problems. Okay, so you rewrite. Now step number 3, you want to write down option number 1, and then you're listing out the results that you want, and see on a scale of 0 to 10, will this option give you your top results? And you go and on a scale, so now you have your options prioritized. Sorry, your results. So in this example, the woman wants to complete her, to get married young. That's the most important to her. And secondly, she wants to complete her bachelor's. So then she says option number 1 is study at university and just be single. Will she get married young if she does that? On a scale of 0 to 10. On a scale of 0 to 10, will she get married young? Basically, if she gets her degree early and gets out quickly, and then does a year of just basically focus on getting married, then she could possibly still get it done. What is young, what is old, who knows, but it's just in her mind. So let's say that technically she could do it, but it's not a for sure thing if she delayed. So let's say that it would be a 5 out of 10. The possibility of her getting that result are it's a 50-50 chance maybe. So now it's 5 out of 10. She might not actually get married young. What's the possibility of her completing her bachelor's degree with option number 1, studying at university and single? What's the possibility? 10 out of 10. Okay, so option number 1 is taken care of. Now she knows that her number 1 option is a 50-50 chance. Second option is, for sure she's going to get it. Now let's look at her second result. Her second option is get married and do not go to university. Will she get result number 1, which is get married young? Can she get that? What are the possibilities? Let's say 9 out of 10. Maybe she won't even get married even. So it's a 9 out of 10. Will she get a bachelor's degree? 0 out of 10. Okay, so now you can see how it's working out. She's weighing the options, and these are numbers that it's not so clear cut. There's a balance. Let's look at option number 3. Get married and study at university. There are some downfalls to that. Maybe she gets a little distracted. Maybe she has a child in the middle or something like that. Will she get married young if she gets married at university? Yes. So the possibility of that happening, let's say 8 out of 10. But if she's working for it, it's pretty high. Will she get a bachelor's degree? Maybe she'll get sidetracked and so on. So it's not totally she'll get a bachelor's degree. So it's still an 8 out of 10. Now that we've looked at these numbers, what do you think the best option for her is? Who would like to say? What's the best option? Now that she's analyzed it. Yes? Get married and go to school. But then this is the judgmental person, will come and say, no, but you could have a child and you won't be able to finish your degree. Finish your degree first and then get married. And then she says, no, she says, I attended the Live Your Dreams event, and and I already analyzed that in much more detail than your advice to me. And I've realized, based on the numbers, that the things that are most important to me, I'll lose out on them if I choose the option that you're talking about. The option you're talking about will get me the degree, but something more important to me is getting married young, and that won't give it to me. Or I'll have a 50-50 chance. Correct? So now that's what I'm talking about. If you do this, you know much more detail than the casual advice people give you. It's much more, analyzed. Now that I've said this to you, you could probably go to someone and say, you know what, let's sit down. What are the results that you're at? What are the options that you have? You take each option and analyze. When I was talking about the UK, should we expand Al-Maghrib to the UK? This is like 5 years ago. And when I looked at all the options, number one was, yes, expand to the UK, even if all of Al-Maghrib collapses because of that, let's still do it. Take this boat and sink it, right? And option number two would be, pull back. And something that I wanted to avoid is like not hurting the people that worked. That's something that I wanted to avoid. And doing action sincerely for the sake of Allah is something that I want to do. So when I really weighed it, I said, like, to do the right thing that would be what Allah is pleasing to Allah is to cancel it right now. But will the people be angry? Yeah, you better believe it, they'll be angry. 10 out of 10 they'll be angry. And believe me, they were angry. But I said that if I'm doing it sincerely, then I've got to face that anger full force, because that's not my number one priority. Pleasing the people is not my number one priority. You can shout at me as much as you want, but your complaints are not my number one priority. So, and another example of this is charging for Al-Maghrib Institute classes. You do a decision thing like this. My number one result is I want people to attend, and even more than that, to benefit from attending. Another result could be I want many people to attend. Someone else will do like a free lecture, and many people attend, but they're not necessarily benefiting. Or they're not committed to, doing the homeworks and assignments and stuff like that. And if that's the number one result, then you can have a different option. But with Al-Maghrib Institute, so somebody said to me, why don't you make these Islamic classes free? And I said to him, that's not my number one result. That's not what I'm after. I'm not after just making free information. What I'm after is how to make the information effective, and I have found that when you charge people, they pay more attention to what they're learning, and so I've gotten my result because of this. If the people will take advantage of the information without me charging this amount, then inshallah ta'ala we'll look into it. But that's normally not the case. Sometimes it is the case, but most of the time when people pay money, they're committed, they've made a commitment, now they're sitting down and they're paying attention, and the money, alhamdulillah, it's like a barakah for them, that it helped them to be committed to that, inshallah. Alright, so after you take each option and you've put in, and you can start, doing that as I'm saying this, right? You got option, and then you've prioritized the list of what's most important to you, and then on a scale of 10, how likely will this option get you with this, how likely will you get this result with this option? The option being for you, should I buy a PC? Your number one thing is compatibility. Will you get compatibility with a PC? Yes, 10 out of 10. And it's the most important thing. Will you get speed with a PC? And you'll get speed, but it's not the same speed as a Mac. But how important is speed to you? It might be like a 7. It's not as important as compatibility. And then you'd say it's a 7 of importance. And what are the possibilities of getting speed with a PC? You can get like a more higher priced PC and still get speed. To 8 out of 10. Yeah, it'll be cheaper than the Mac, and a cheap price too. You might put that into the equation as well. Okay, and then you do that for everyone. Then you summarize. After you've summarized and you've looked, sometimes a new option will come up. You look at all this stuff here, and then you're like, something that you never even thought of just popped out of nowhere. You put some things together. Basically, when you come to the end, you've got to make a decision, burn the ships, and just go forward. There's no turning back at this point. The decision has been made, and that's where like the leader is born. Leaders, I have found, are people that make decisions, just go forward with it. We have decided. So someone comes up to you afterwards and says, no, study, do your degree first and then get married. And they're like, I have decided. This is the end of story. If you say it with that confidence, not the shaky, but I've decided, that's it, end of story. And the people like, in fact, subhanAllah, sometimes your parents, you tell them, I want to do this, I want to do that. And then they're like, no, do that. They start giving you all this feedback and you do this. But when you're committed to something, even your parents, and they see the commitment, you're not immature about it anymore, you know what you're talking about, then they'll step like, I trust you. Before we were just testing you to see, it's not something really that you want, but now that you've, done all of this, you want to get married, you're still young, but you want to get married, you've looked at all your options, we're ready to support you because of your decision. Wallahu ta'ala. Questions about this? As I said, I'm just giving you a little glimpse on how to do it. You might want to spend on big decisions like up to 2 hours, maybe half a day, just going through each option, rearranging, following exactly as you see there.